Susan Johnson to come forward. Dr. Johnson is a product of the Hempstead School District with over 30 years experience in the New York State public school system. She was appointed superintendent of schools in October of 2004. Thirdly, we'll ask Lamont Johnson to come forward. Mr. Johnson has been a Hempstead Village resident for over 41 years. He looks young. He is a former member of the NYPD. Oh, okay. He is a former member of the NYPD and Hempstead Police Department. He currently serves on the school district's audit committee. Now we'll ask Maribel Torre to come forward. All know, Maribel was recently elected as a member of the Hempstead School Board, and she is a constant fighter for children in Hempstead. Next, we'll ask Hank Williams to come forward. Mr. Hank Williams has served as the principal of the Alberta B. Gray Scholes Middle School for the past 4 years, and Mr. Williams previously served as a teacher, assistant principal, and dean of students at the ABGS Middle School, as well as the assistant principal at Hempstead High School. Next, we'll ask Dr. Maria Munoz-Canta to come forward. Prior to joining the Hispanic Counseling Center, Dr. Munoz-Canta worked as a mental health consultant, educator, and provider, offering services to administrators, teachers, parents, and family workers in order to promote the social and emotional development of children in Head Start programs. And then lastly, Dr. Tyrone Bennett. Dr. Bennett is a noted educational researcher and former director of the College Now program, as well as the chairman for schools-college collaborations at CUNY LaGuardia Community College. Dr. Bennett currently focuses on 21st century readiness skills for career, as well as technical education among minority populations. Let's give one big round of applause for our panelists. We're going to begin our panel discussion, and so I have several questions, and we hope to get to all of the questions, and then we hope at the end that we will be constructive, because we will once again come up with some of the solutions. So I'd like to first ask all of my panelists today, what is your definition of student success? And once again, if you can just be brief as possible so that we can get to all of the questions, that would kindly be appreciated. But what is your definition of student success? And we'll start on this end with Dr. Munoz-Canta.
My definition of student success is a combination of the community, parents, and the children. The most important focus is also our academic institutions and the people that are providing those services within our academic institutions.
Dr. Williams?
Good morning. One of the things we do at the middle school every day is we talk about the 5 guidelines to success. Number 1, we feel students should listen. If they listen, that's going to help them to be successful. Number 2, they should be prepared every day in school. That's going to help them be successful. They should be respectful. We express to them that respect is free. It doesn't cost them a dime to be respectful. That's going to help them to be successful. We also ask them to be committed. Whatever they commit to, they will be successful at. And the last thing we ask them to do is to believe in themselves. And if they do those 5 things, they have a great shot. Thank you.
Good morning. To me, student success is when they transition from young boys to young men into an adult, and every action that they are going to take is going to be a reflection of what they learn.
Mr. Johnson.
Student success, I look at it in several ways. It's one thing to be successful on a Hempstead level. We all know that we have to increase our graduation rates. We need to increase our grades. And I'm here to say that we have to work towards making our children more successful after they leave Hempstead High. That's my main concern. Oftentimes, children find out that they were doing well in Hempstead, but when they go further in education, they find out that they feel that they're not as qualified as some other students, and we have to change that. So success is not just in the Hempstead schools, it's through the nation and through the world. We have to prepare our students for life after school, after high school. And at this time, we're not doing a good enough job at that. And we're going to do our best to improve with that.
Good morning. Success as the superintendent of schools for the Hempstead Union Free School District goes to the theme that I have in place for the district, and that is back to basics. Once a student has the basics, they're able to build upon those basics and be successful in life. We are falling short right now as far as providing those basics to our students to be successful in college and in the workforce. And having said that, we are putting in place systems to make sure that our students are successful when they leave the halls of the Hempstead School District.
Good morning. I'm currently serving as an executive director for an all-boys charter school in East New York. I stepped out of the pulpit and back into the school arena because of the mission that we're here to talk about today. From kindergarten to 5, every morning, our children affirm with one voice, I am what I am. I am a man. I'm not a mistake. I am a miracle. I can be whatever I've been chosen to be. So therefore, no one can tell me that I can't be what I want to be. Success is making sure the children experience what they're declaring every day.
Good morning. What I think the definition of student success is, currently I'm finishing my 4th book, will be out early spring. It's entitled The Anatomy of a Model Student. It talks about student success. But I'll give you briefly, my rendition of student success is students ought to study, study, study to commit studying, study to understand success, and look at those heroines who came before your parents who were successful. So students that are still here, study, study, and study some more.
Okay, so with that in mind, I'd like to connect that to asking all of you to describe your ideal school environment or ideal learning academic environment. And we're going to start this way and go backwards.
Well, one of the things I think is so important is many of us, especially on this panel, understands human behavior. We've all been there. We've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifference. And we understand that your environment can make who you can become in the future. However, too many of us, meaning students, may not understand how to adapt for the positive in your bad environment. You cannot be, or don't think that you should become what your environment is. Quite often, a lot of students watch television. I dealt with tens and thousands of students throughout my career. Quite often, a lot of students want to be the next Michael Jordan, Jay-Z. You know, how often many students want to be the next scientist. Practice and learn more of math and science and to become and using what God's given you, your brain. I think the environment, if we overcome the environment by saying I can be the next influential person, whether it be the next Dr. King, whether it be the next Reverend Al, whether it be the next, if your parent, your mother, or your father is a positive figure, I think that you can overcome if there's any bad issues in your environment. So looking at the environment, you can succeed. You know, just because, I tell students this quite often, just because you're having a bad day or your environment is bad, your home is bad, I've always said this, the sun is always shining. In the midst of the storm, heavy rains, the snow, the sun above the clouds is always shining. You just have to wait till that storm passes by. Stay positive.
For me, it's making sure that we are demonstrating the expectations we have of children. If we expect them to go to college, we have to expose them to college, not in middle school, not in high school. I just sent 4th and 5th graders to Georgetown University and Howard University to go on the campus, to experience what college life is like. You don't wait for them to get to high school to show them a Regent Science lab. My 5th graders just dissected frogs last week. You start younger. It amazes me how in certain cultures you become a man at 13, and other cultures you don't become a man to 18 and 21. If we want them to become men by 13, we've got to start at the younger ages. One of the other things, for me, a great environment, especially when you're reaching out to boys, they need to see men in their daily environment. So we have gone out of our way to recruit and hire. Half of my staff are males. They have to have men in the classroom. They have to see men teaching science, see men teaching math, and to understand that that's not, our inability to handle math is not something that's inward born. You know, young men, you have to teach a different way. And so I think that's very important, that if we have these high expectations, we've got to put opportunities. I know it makes no sense for some of you that when I tell you that we've departmentalized 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, so that because of the high energies of young men, they get to move every 50 minutes, and therefore they're able to be taught by teachers who master in the area they're taught, and not just through common branch education. There are great ways that we can meet the needs of children, but if we have high expectations, we've got to put the things in place that demonstrate that's where they're going to go.
Thank you. When I gave my State of the School District address, I pointed to the facilities in the Hempstead School District. And one of the statements that I did make was that a student in the Hempstead School District could travel through the pre-kindergarten program, the kindergarten program, an elementary school in the district, 6th grade, and not be able to be in their first classroom until they reached 7th grade. Now, how many of you was exposed to your first classroom when you reached 7th grade? So for me, it goes back to the basics. Our facilities, they've been here for years, they have not been maintained, and our students have not been afforded the opportunity which so many students across Long Island have had. Most people take for granted that they're being educated in a classroom that's well equipped with the highly qualified teacher standing before them. They have the books and the resources so that they can learn. The bulk of our students sit in portables. Those portables, by virtue, should have been moved out of the community, but our portables have become permanent fixtures for our students. So for us in Hempstead, we're trying to maintain the holes that are in the floor, the holes that are in the walls, to make sure that at least when our students arrive to us, they have the ability to stay warm in those classrooms. So the programs which we're offering in Hempstead, and we have quite a few, but as we take this journey through the education process, we must be mindful of the fact that only 22% of those who reside in this community foot the tax bill. And in saying that, it's very important that you realize there are only 3 sources of how a school district receives its funding.
Can you just hold that, because we're going to bring that up a little bit later. That's a big one. So.
For our students, I want them to be able to enter into a classroom where the resources are there for them to learn, and we'll pick up on the second part of that later.
I'm going to take a while for this. Everybody has time, I hope.
I'll let you know.
Okay, let me know. We have to change the culture of failing. I'll give you an example. In 1987, I went to a program called a Hofstra Upper Bound program. And when I entered the program, I was never very good at math. Every other subject I did pretty well at. But math, I was terrible at math. And I think I got like a 30 on the test or 40 on the test. And I was surrounded by students from other districts like Malvern, Freeport, Uniondale, other school districts besides Hempstead. And when I fell, I was in Hempstead. When I fell, sometimes it was funny. I would say I got a 30, or somebody else would say I got a 20, and we laughed about it. But in Hofstra, when I was at Upper Bound program, I was embarrassed. The other students said, "Lamont, what are you doing?" you need to learn. You know, you're here to learn, and the whole culture of learning and not trying to be cool or not trying to get along with everybody. Being in the other districts, learning was what made you cool, what made you popular. And I think we have to change that whole culture. We have to raise the standards. Of course, we're 124 out of 124. We're at the bottom. You can look at it two ways. We can't get any lower. And we have to increase. The whole culture has to change. And one thing I want to say, Hempstead is different from other communities. One of the reasons why some parents don't send their kids at Hempstead is because of the safety issues. Now I want to say that the high school, in the beginning of the year, the high school was in disarray. There was a lot of safety issues, there was a lot of problems with the children. But I want to say now we have that corrected. We have our executive principal. And last year, even though the academics wasn't up to par, we had a very disciplined high school. This year, we're getting not only disciplined, but I'm happy to say the academics is coming into play as well, and we're changing the whole culture, and we're going to do much better.
The most healthy environment it has to be inclusive. We have to take into consideration that the community has to be present, the parents, they have to be heard, the students, they have to be think about it. They have to be the first one to be as a priority. And we cannot isolate any of the groups. We all have to work together. As a mother, too many times I was threatened to be removed from the auditorium if I don't stop asking questions. And those things, they have to stop. And we are working very hard on that. For a long time, I was being told that nothing was going to change. And here I am sitting in this board because we made the change. Because when I was campaigning, they were saying nothing is going to change. 30 years you are not going to resolve anything. But how we did it, we got in touch with the people, we got in touch with the communities. And not only with my neighbors, but I went to the terrace, I went to the heights, I went to every corner of Hempstead, and we talked about it, and we made the change happen. And I love to hear the word change, but change is not going to mean anything if we don't combine it with action. And it's what is going to make this environment healthy and successful. If we all take action, that's no matter if it's 1 day or 1 hour of our time, but we all have to get involved in the students. We all have to get involved in the district. We have to make it happen.
I had my buddy come from Georgia, longtime friend, and he's also a minister. And he likes preachers like Bishop Jakes. He likes those real exciting preachers. And so he asked me to take him to a church where he can get excited. So I took him to Reverend Easley. I didn't take him to my church. You know, I go to Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn, where my pastor's a little different. I bring my laptop and it's a learning environment. I took him to Reverend Easley, and he was excited. Okay, he loved it. He really enjoyed the service. And so when I think about students, I want them to love to come to school. I want them to come to school because I'm there, and I have high expectations for them. I believe in them. This is what I want from the students, and this is what we have to instill in everyone in the school, in the building. I heard one of the students talk about it's the adults that has to be fixed. And if we fix that, and we have adults that are excited to see children, excited about children, and have high expectations for children, we're going to see a big difference in the schools.
There you go. That's right. The adults. The adults.
Well, for me, the one thing I want to say is that I always share my story with students and with communities. I come from the South Bronx on 139th Street and Brook Avenue. I was there for many, many, many years. I was consistently told that I could not go to college, consistently. And I, of course, being an activist very young, I joined the church groups and the reverends in the community, and I became an adolescent that was totally invested. Shortly after, my little brother got killed and then my little sister. So for me, I knew that education was the route, but I was told I was too poor, and there were too many gang members in our community, and there was no way that I was going to go to NYU. Well, guess what, folks? I was determined. I led a lot of youth groups. I even started a choir with children that were from lower socioeconomic communities. And the reality is that I had the mothers in the community make the children uniforms because they were poor. So the reality is that when we went to church, no one knew who was poor and who was rich. But then I proceeded to go on to NYU. I went to NYU undergraduate, I went into NYU master's and NYU PhD. So I tell my story to the young people and to the people around me. And I mentor young people. We have to be focused and remember that we have to mentor the young.
All right, so keeping that in mind, that was pretty much the setup, because we talked about success and a positive learning environment. And so now we're going to switch gears. We want to really ask the deep questions in terms of why are so many schools in low-income communities of color failing? And then specifically, more specifically, what do you believe has really led to the failure of our schools right here in Hempstead?
Well, I'll start. In order for you to succeed, you, number one, have to understand the organization. And by saying that, the people that you put into positions have to understand their role and how it contributes to that organization. We've had in Hempstead people in positions, but they never knew why they were in those positions. And that contributed to the failure which you have before you today. As a superintendent, I've had 12 state offices in a matter of 3 months indicate we have been out of compliance over the last 7 to 8 years. I've indicated to the state that we're moving forward and this is the plan of the district. That's not how the state wants us to respond. They want me to go back and clear up the 8 years that the district was out of compliance and then move the district forward. There are basic positions in the district which we have not had in place. Number one, in order for you to move forward, because in Hempstead, every school is a focus school or a priority school, meaning that they're failing either in ELA, mathematics, at the high school, it's the graduation rate. And in order for you to move forward, you have to, number one, look at your data. But in Hempstead, I realized we didn't have a person doing that. So therefore, what are you doing? What are you addressing that can move us forward in a different direction? So I am proud to say that the board understood this, and therefore we will have that person in place when the doors open back up, because we are on holiday recess now, with a person in that area, in testing, looking at the data, so we can actually focus in on the areas in which we are deficient. And doing that, that will allow us the opportunity to definitely move forward. But when I returned to Hempstead, it was important that staff would ask me, well, what do you expect of us? What do you expect of us? And my response was always this: I expect you to give me your all from the hours in which you're required to work in Hempstead. I'm tired of seeing staff leave the district the same time our students are leaving. There are a number of services that we need to put in place for our students. When our students arrive to us in pre-K, we have a very intense program for them. We applied to the state for full-day pre-K, but unfortunately we were disapproved. We have full-day kindergarten in the district. When we opened up the doors for our kindergarten program, we opened the doors for 550 students. When we finished the registration, we had over 800 students. So therefore, we had to house them in different schools in the district, as opposed to having the district focus on one school in the district. There are a lot of issues that we are addressing in the district, but number one, we're making sure that the people in the positions are in the right positions in the district in order to provide, number one, the professional development that is necessary for our staff so they can focus on the areas in which we are deficient and move the district forward. We're making sure that we put in place, and we have our high school principal with us today. He's a turnaround principal. People looked at me and said, well, what are you doing? He knows what's necessary. There's an urgency in Hempstead. Each June, we are graduating students. But we have to make sure when we graduate those students that they are prepared to either, number one, go on to college or vocation. In Hempstead, for some of you that might not know, we spend $25 million at BOCES. Why? There are programs that we don't have in Hempstead. There are vocational programs that we're utilizing right now at BOCES. We put our students in the arts. We have a number of students that participate in the arts there. We have them in the auto mechanics, which was a program in which we had at Hempstead High School. I say this because right now we are focusing on the academics, but there are so many other students in our district that have talents over and beyond that. So in order for us to move this district forward, we have to, number one, guarantee that the people we have in positions are there because they know the role of that position and they're able to fulfill the responsibilities of that position to move Hempstead School District forward.
Thank you. Yes.
One of the things that I did before going to the charter school is that I served as a consultant for the New York State Department of Education doing school reviews, going into schools, and then bringing back a recommendation whether that school should stay open, whether that school should change leadership, those kind of reports. And no disrespect, sister, but one of the reasons why I feel that Hempstead is failing, because it's not just about having the right people on the bus, but you have to have the right positions on the bus to begin with. And so more direct services need to be provided for the children in Hempstead. More opportunities for alternative education need to be in place. You need to have a more rigorous professional development program, because you can't hold kids accountable for what teachers are not teaching correctly. You need to, when you talk about data, you don't have to hire one person to do data. Your whole instructional system should be data driven. So teachers should know data. Parents should understand data. I think we were at a meeting, a Hempstead Promise meeting, and one of the principals was asked, well, what percentage of your children are on track to graduate in the 11th grade? And he said, I don't know. And he thought I was rude, but I said to him, well, then you shouldn't be principal. You have to know where your children are. It shouldn't be a surprise to them that they're not on track for graduation in grade 11. Everyone should be familiar with the data that drives the school. Even your budget should be data driven. What do you need? When you sit and you look at even your design of the elementary school, your elementary school design, the instruction should be designed by what happened in your middle school when those children were not able to pass that ELA exam. What were the skills that the foundational skills that they should have had going into grade 7 that they didn't have? Okay, not only are we going to address that in grade 7, but we're going to make sure we hit it in 6, in 5, in 4, in 3, and in 2, because it's not an isolated issue here. We're talking about metacognition. That's stuff that starts from kindergarten and up. So when we talk about failing, those are the things that, for me, some of the things that for me that are really hurting the Hempstead School District.
Can I just...
We just have one more respondent, and I'll
Let me say this, and I haven't investigated, Hempstead School District or anything like that. But let's call a spade a spade. There are some teachers who cannot teach. I've been there, I've seen it. There are some principals really should go back and be retrained. I've been in a category with 37 superintendents that I work with. I was called by a team by Congress, 2013, to talk. I was the only educator there. Met with 29 officials, Congress and senators, and discussed math and science in this nation. I talked about New York, what's going on. I'm from Suffolk County. I work with a lot of principals, superintendents. I did a report we had No Child Left Behind. I looked at 7 school districts, where they were, where they weren't. I looked and analyzed the instructions that was given, not given. We are in the midst of Common Core standards right now. So let's call a spade a spade. However, one of the problems that's been affecting a lot of our students is the home. It begins with parents. I'm a substitute teacher at Wyandanch School District. I work from kindergarten to high school. I have over 27 years experience in higher education. I told 4 superintendents I'll give back my time to come into school districts. I'm an engineer, I'm an author. I want students of color to see you can be successful. I'll be that living example. I've traveled this country. I've been in the courts of a lot of parents as well as administrators. I've seen the poor administrators who did terrible jobs. My question is, why they're still administrating? And they're breeding failures. And I'm not saying anything about what's happening here in Hempstead. I only can talk about what I witnessed and what I reported into our elected officials. However, it starts with the parents. Parents, do your job. Let these kids, because I had to call 3 parents the other day because of their children. Thank God these parents did not say, that's not my child. My child did not fight like that, because I explained to them. It's very sad when we're living, it's only been about 51 years civil rights movement. So I tell a lot of teenagers, listen, it has nothing to do with black and white issue. What are you doing to be successful for yourself in your life? You want to continue your progeny? You have 4 kids and you're only 23 years old. What are you doing to really set the example for your kids? So parents, get on board. And I'm about calling a spade a spade. That's what I want to say.
I just want to add to this because we've been talking a lot about taking action, and I want to just share some input in terms of what I see as a community college educator. Community college, when we look at the data, because it is very data driven, and when we look at the data, we find that Hempstead, in terms of Hempstead, Hempstead has the second largest population of students entering in. When the students enter in, and we look at the data specifically with African American males and Latino males, we find that 72% of those who enter in must take at least 2 remedial courses. Right? So in terms of that, when we talk about remediation, when we look at what we call a basic reading and education program, and we have conversations with those educators, we find that the average student who comes in, their reading level is somewhere between 4th and 8th grade. That's tough. Right? So imagine these students stay in our remediation program for at least 2 years, but we still have to wonder when they leave that remediation program and move into matriculated courses, are they really ready, college ready? All right, and so for me, this is a serious concern, but this is also, to me, I believe this is a social justice issue, because we're not educating people, and this perpetuates an underclass within our society. Now, there was a study that was done back in 1995, and the Hart and Risley study basically argues that when we look at language, our children are already coming from, I want to say, they're behind. The study reveals that if you live in a poorer community, not all, but it reveals that poorer children tend to hear at least 30 million words less than their white counterparts by the time they turn 3 years old. Okay, by the time they turn 3 years old. So if you have not even been in an environment with words and logic and critical thinking, by the time you're 3, you're already coming into the school system, whether it be pre-K or daycare, or whatever the situation, you're coming at a disadvantage. So that's where we're working from. And so the purpose of this discussion is not to place any blame or attack. We want to be proactive. We want to really look at what we have. And so with that in mind, my next question to the panel will be, then how does the curriculum need to change to improve learning and to encourage the education of Black and Latino youth? Yes.
That last question was a very important question. I didn't get to have a response.
Okay, so you can jump in and then we'll go right into the next question.
And I'm happy that you said this is not about pointing fingers. Okay, we have a group of people here from all walks of life, professionals, great people. I see some great people in the audience, and there's some great people on the panel. And I have to use this word. However, This is not about somebody's, the bio, whatever you did, most of the things that you did, some of it is here. We're not here to try to sell ourselves or say we did this, we did that, and the word I keep hearing the word I, that's not gonna help the situation. Some people are established here, okay, that's great, but that's not gonna help us, that's not gonna help the children, that's not gonna help the youth, that's saying what you did. Okay,
Well, I need to correct you on that,
one second.
because the I
One
word
second.
is used
No,
because
no,
people
one-
are
one
bringing
second.
their experience
No,
to the table,
I
and we
understand
need
that.
that.
I understand that. We understand that they experience, they have experience, but they're taking it too much with the I. That's not gonna help. That's my opinion. You asked the problem, what was the question again?
Right, I just asked
No,
about the curriculum.
the question about why the school is.
Yes, that's the question.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Why are we seeing the failing rates within our schools?
Because failure has been accepted. Okay? Now, I'm happy to say, and there's people in the audience, they're not accepting failure anymore. Okay? That's what makes the difference when people stand up. Some people from the pulpit, whether we don't like it, they had to say something about what's going on in schools, they said it. We're listening. Okay? The community, as far as transparency, when people speak, we're listening. We're treating all the students the same, we're listening. So that's what's important. It's about people getting together, taking something from everyone and learning, not just saying, I this and I that. That's not what it's about. It's about the students, it's about the youth. That's why I'm happy that you allowed them to speak first, because they're the future. Okay, people are here, okay, we're going places, we want to go places, but we already know, you're great people you're doing. We don't need to hear about what you did. We don't want to hear that. Okay, we want to know ways to make things better going forward. We are at the bottom. We have to find ways to go to the top.
Right,
That's
and I
what we're
think
here
that's
for.
the purpose of the discussion, is for us to move that forward. I understand what you're saying,
And
but we
point-
have
and
to,
pointing
excuse
fingers
me,
is not
I'm
gonna
the
help.
moderator and I have the floor. What we want to do here is we want to stay focused on the fact that we're not here to point any fingers, as all of you have already said, but we have to have the conversation. It's very important that we speak truth, and we speak truth to power. And we cannot continue, because we understand that many of us in this room are trying to move forward. That's why we're here. But we still have to address the realities of our situation, and that's all I'm saying. So let's keep that in mind as we speak. We're not attacking each other, but we have to talk about it. That's the only way to move forward. It's what we call constructive criticism.
Right.
The point is to improve on the behavior. So we know what we have, we know what we're working with, but we have to have this conversation so that we can go forward, so that the next generation will not have this failing data that we have.
Can I say one thing? Can I say one thing? 1 second. Okay, that's well and good, but can we do a little bit more of what we can do instead of what I have done? Okay, thank you.
Let's talk about partnerships. I think partnerships is what we're talking about. And future collaborations with regard to force field analysis and looking at measurable outcomes. Okay, part of the process here is that I've only been at the Hispanic Counseling Center for 10 months. But already we have partnered with the town, with the municipalities, we've met with the superintendent, we've met with the Board of Education, we've met with commissioners to discuss what can we do in the area of education to bring our families together, to work with the teachers, with the academicians. We know that families in general are very threatened, especially Hispanic families, are very threatened by academic institutions. Part of our job has been recently, we met with the superintendent to discuss a plan of action that we're going to take and move forward into the community. We've met with the mayor, with the council. We've met with legislators, we've met with the DA's office. I think part of it is partnerships and understanding that we do have the tools, we just have to move it forward.
Okay, thank you. Now, I still want to go back to my question, which is, how does the curriculum need to change to improve learning and encouraging education of Black and Latino youth? Thank you. Can someone answer that question? Thank you.
I want to start with that because I want to focus on the previous question. I'm going to combine it, so I'm going to let you
Combine it quickly, because I need someone to answer that question.
One of the problems, how the schools, they start falling apart. Every time I hear somebody saying that they've been on the community for 30 years, I have the desire to get that person and shake him. Because we need to shake people to do something. You cannot be in the community for 30 years seeing what's going on with the students, going on with the schools, and do nothing. That is one of my first reactions. I've been in this community for 10 years only, and I decide not to sit and look from the back. I decided to do something, not only for my kids, because the problem was going to be solved if I send them to private schools, but every child is important. Doesn't matter if it's African American, or if it's Spanish, or whatever the color is. It's a child that we need to make him successful for life. The second part is how to involve with the curriculum. It has to be a successful curriculum, and we need help for real professionals. We are surrounded by different universities. We have Hofstra, we have Adelphi, we have Molloy, but they are not present in the community. If they don't come to us, we have to come to them and ask them for real help. We need to make sure this curriculum is being changed for the future of our kids. We need to prepare teachers. We cannot keep putting administrators. We cannot keep using money from the district for other organizations, for other activities that our students are not included. Yesterday, it was a very successful program, but the community was completely divided at the auditorium in the high school. Money was used to pay overtime for all the people that has to be present at the high school, and no one single student was included there. No one single Spanish pastor. If we need to be successful, we need to be inclusive without seeing the color of our skin. We need to set goals. We need to put times, and we need to work on it. Not just meetings and talking, but we need to make change with action, and we need to accept each other. It's what we need to start doing. Our curriculums, they need to be revised, and they need to be revised by people who know. Common Core is here, and we are not training our teachers. We are putting more people on administration positions, on community aids. We are pushing the same people for extra $10,000, $20,000 on the dockets, and we are not seeing anything for students or for teachers' evaluations or development teachers.
All right, I want to answer the question. Yeah, I got it. One hand came up here, Ronald Taylor. I think he said it best. And how much he learned from the dancing and the arts. I think we need to align the curriculum to the arts and those things that can tap into these students. Every child in this district has learning potential. I want you to understand that. It's a matter of the adults, the professionals, tapping into that learning potential. They have to find it. There's a learning vein somewhere. You just have to find it. And once you tap into that potential, okay, we have the ELA and the math modules that we use directly from the state. Okay, that's the curriculum that we use. That curriculum has to be aligned. It has to be aligned to art. It has to be aligned to technology, all right? And once we begin to do that, once teachers are trained to do that, we're going to begin to see more success from our children, because now they're doing things that they want to do. Now they're tapping into their own potentials along with the curriculum. So I think that's what has to happen in the Hempstead School District.
Thank you. Yes.
One researcher, Dr. James Comer from Yale University, the School Development Program, identifies the fact that you have to educate the whole child, and there are 6 learning pathways for the whole child. If a child comes to school hungry, they're not going to be able to receive from a teacher. So you have to make sure nutritionally we're meeting those needs. We now know that physical development those needs are being met. Cognitive development, yes, but also speech and language, also ethics, also character development. There are 6 pathways that we should be making sure that the curriculum is addressing for a whole child to be thoroughly developed.
All right, so we're looking at a holistic approach. Secondly, then, how can the STEM program be used then to facilitate student engagement as well as learning opportunities? Would you like to begin with that conversation, Dr. Bennett?
Yes. One of the important things that I found over the years that I participated with schools is very important to give testimony. The schools I dealt with invited engineers such as myself and many others to reach out. So the idea of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, so it can be reinforced in the classroom. A lot of students and I don't know how many math teachers are in the room, But a lot of students don't like math. A lot of students are weak in math. Some students complain, why do I have to learn this? So one of the courses that was created was called Math by Design, whereas engineers came in the classroom after school and they showed students the importance of geometry. Some of us who are former bridge inspectors design bridges in the classroom. So the idea of looking at geometry, physics, engineering, and bring that in the classroom, whether it be middle school or even high school. Students have to understand, or teachers should understand, the school district should understand, hands-on experiences is so important. So students can see for themselves where this math is used in the real world. Why is physics so important? Why is it important to speak clearly? Why is it important to write? These are the things that are so crucial in a school district, in the classroom. And I think that is very important, especially in this 21st century.
Okay, I'll take one more respondent. Yes, Superintendent
It's
Johnson.
important to point out that the Hempstead Union Free School District does have partnerships with Adelphi University, Hofstra University, Lloyd College, as well as Nassau Community College. And I want to point out that our students are participating right now in STEM programs at Hofstra. The participation is on the elementary level as well as at our middle school. This started in the district during the course of the summer. Our students have participated through the summer. The programs have continued throughout the school year, and we're looking for more success in that area. Looking at, and it was pointed out earlier, professional development. Our teachers every week on Wednesday are exposed to extended professional development days. We also have built into the calendar in the district professional development days where there is a half a day devoted just to PD. In the scheduling of mathematics and realizing the importance of that, we do have on the elementary levels double periods of mathematics for our students. So we are moving forward in that area as well.
Someone said Farmingdale College? It's called out.
I am sorry, we do have a program with Farmingdale. We have a number of partnerships with the Hempstead School District, with the colleges and universities locally. Thank you for pointing that out.
All right, this question is for Maribel. How can the school board then help to facilitate a positive learning environment for our students?
We need to include them. We need to make sure that they are going to be there when we are going to be there. Because we can discuss their future, but if they are not here to listen to them, whatever we decide, we don't know if that is going to make a real impact on them. We need to make sure what the actions that we take, they are going to be in response to what they need. We need to be open. We need to be transparent. For too many days, the people were saying that, oh, I can help you on the back because I'm scared that they know that I'm helping you. People is scared and we don't know of what. We need to fight for our rights, taking into consideration that the best resource that we have in life are our children. And we need to form them, we need to help them. And the school board, listening to them, is the main resource that we can have to open the line of communication. We need to be transparent. We need to make sure that they feel secure. We need to make sure that what we are going to implement is going to be on their behalf.
And also, I just want to just piggyback on that, then I'm going to ask Dr. Munoz-Cantha if you could just speak to this, then how, because you talked about partnerships, how can then teachers, administrators, school board members, how can they partner to empower Black and Latino youth?
Well, first of all, I think that we have to talk to our parents. Communities have to talk to parents, and they have to encourage parents to be empowered and to be part of the process. A part of our responsibility, I don't have kids in the school district, but I certainly am invested in the school district and the children that are growing here in this community to become fulfilled professionals. So part of the process is to reach out to the parents and to allow the parents to come in and say what they have to say. My experience involved in school boards and on school boards has been that sometimes we just don't include the parents.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask Superintendent Johnson if you could speak to this, and what role should the parents and the members of the community play in making sure that we can move forward with the success of our youth?
The movement of the Hempstead School District cannot be done in isolation, and we need the support and the input of the parents as well as the community. In order for us to educate the total child, it's important that we hear from each stakeholder in the community. In the absence of that, we're going to continue to do the same thing and get the same results.
Okay, Mr. Hank Williams, will you speak to that?
Absolutely. I think we have to support each other. We talked about pointing the finger. It's really about support. We have to support our Board of Education. We have to support our superintendent. We have to support central office and each other in the schools and support the parents. I think the parents are angry. There are a lot of parents who are angry. They don't really believe in the Hempstead School District. They've seen so many changes and so many different things. So, like the young man said up here, so a lot of times they're confused, just like he was confused. So I think we have to be consistent. This is the first year that the superintendent, I'm so happy she did this, allowed me to have my same administrative team come back again a second year. These kids see so many different people, so it's really not about getting out here and just firing everyone. It's about supporting each other, all right, and helping each other, and now seeing some continuity. And I believe once parents see continuity and they see that we're serious and that things are changing, and they're going to come on board. But they don't trust us right now, so they're not going to do that until they trust us.
Okay. All right, we're coming to the end of our session. And so there are two quick questions that we need to ask. How do we make sure, because you spoke to this earlier, Superintendent Johnson, how do we make sure that our state, as well as district and local schools, have the necessary resources to ensure the success for our youth?
Well, maybe some of you had the opportunity to read, but when we, in our local newspapers, but you have to realize when we closed the schools from the 13-14 school year, I closed with 6,000 students. When I opened the door for the 14-15 school year, I had an additional 1,500 students. The state, federal government, they've heard my pleas, they've heard me, because you have to staff the classrooms. We must educate all students. The funding is not coming to us. It's unfortunate that you have to put a tax burden on so few people in the community to educate. It is not acceptable to have 60 students in a classroom. That's not going to have any learning take place there. The state right now is looking into passing special legislation for a handful of school districts to get additional resources into the community to assist us to provide the necessary services to our students. When you look at Hempstead, you look at a $184 million budget. Before I can even start to educate the students in Hempstead, as I indicated, we have millions going out to BOCES, TRS, the ERS, and when you look at what I have to work with, I'm down to $100 million, and I have to educate 8,000 students. Hempstead is listed as far as the state providing $27,550 for each one of our students. That is on the high end of the spectrum, but most districts don't have the challenges which the Hempstead School District has before it right now. So I'm hoping that the special legislation that has been promised to the district will take forth when they reconvene in January, and the additional resources as promised will be forthcoming.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we just need to summarize what's taken place. There are so many other things that we'd like to raise, but time will not allow us to. So we learned today in this panel that in order for us to create an atmosphere of student success, that success, again, involves the community, the parents, as well as the students. We've also learned that it's important for us to set high expectations for our children, that we must ensure that there's a presence of male teachers as well as male mentors in the classroom. We also learned today that we must improve the facilities that are present right here within the infrastructure of Hempstead School District. We also have to begin to instill a culture of education, that our young people will begin to develop a love for learning, as well as facilitate that culture of learning. We also learned today that, again, it's important that all of our young people, as well as those who teach them, are a part of a safe work and learning environment, and that we must be inclusive in the process itself, recognizing all perspectives as well as experiences. Once again, it's important that we form partnerships and that we also hold those individuals accountable for the partnerships that they've agreed to participate in, as well as training of our teachers and using the arts as well as technology to begin to reach out to those students who may or may not be interested in the school system, that we can teach them to study, to listen, to prepare, to respect one another, to believe in themselves, and to be committed to education. And so at this time, we want to thank all of the members of the panel because they have expressed their commitment to education.